or calamity, Your Honor, which the position of my clients it does not exist, Your Honor, at that time, Your Honor. That's why the expediency by which this enrolled bill, Your Honor, was made was pointed to in our petition.
Okay. But of course, actually, even if it was passed without three readings in the House, it still went to the Senate, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
And then it was only after both chambers or houses have reconciled, perhaps even their disagreeing provisions, that eventually the enrolled bill was transmitted to the Office of the President sometime in December, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
It was opposed by my client, Your Honor,
So
Pimentel.
in other words, it took a while eventually before this particular appropriations law reached the Office of the President.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Incidentally, is it correct to say that Pimentel III and Alvarez are not completely against ang program appropriations, and they question the 2024 GA because the excess in the program appropriations is violative of Section 25(1), Article 6, and since the General Appropriations Bill was certified as urgent contrary to Section 26, Article 6, is it not?
Your Honor, I just want to point out that in the last 3 paragraphs, Your Honor, we mentioned Article 6, Section 25(4) of the 1987 Constitution, Your Honor.
That is with respect to the 3 readings.
That is with respect to the special appropriations, Your Honor.
Okay. Yes.
Your Honor, I just want to read again or state again that...
No, it's okay, Counsel. That's not part of my question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Just curious. Since the fiscal year 2024 is already over, is Pimentel III and Alvarez still pursuing their prayer for the 2024 GA to be declared as unconstitutional? It's already 2026, Counsel.
Your Honor, I think there is already precedent for this, Your Honor. In the PhilHealth case, Your Honor, it was ordered that the an excess, Your Honor, to be returned, Your Honor, in the subsequent or next General Appropriations Act, Your Honor, or the enrolled bill approved by the President. So, using that as basis, Your Honor, I think it is possible, Your Honor, that, but it is post, Your Honor, return, Your Honor, by way of appropriations, Your Honor.
So, that to you is the benefit of having the 2024 GAA declared as unconstitutional?
Yes, Your Honor. And you're also so also that there may be precedent, Your Honor, that no, we espouse, Your Honor, that the increase in the appropriations was done here, Your Honor, in violation of 25(1) of Article 6, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Counsel. I'm done with my interpretation with respect to your clients. May I call on the counsels for Filipinos for Peace, Justice, and Progress movement, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So FPJPM is only asking to declare as unconstitutional the increase in appropriations to the special accounts in the General Fund or SAGF and the DPWH Special Road Fund, which were not part of the 2025 NEP or the President's budget for 2025, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So am I right in saying that these 2 items are under automatic appropriations?
Yes, Your Honor.
So the issue here is not about unprogrammed appropriations, but automatic appropriations?
That is correct, Your Honor.
So FPJPM, sorry paborito ko si FPJ, pero hindi ko maano itong FPJPM is not asking to declare as unconstitutional unprogrammed appropriations in the 2025 GAA or RA or Republic Act number 12116. Is this not correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay.
The concern of the petitioner, Your Honor, is
So,
the automatic appropriations, Your Honor.
So again, the SAGF for some agencies in the sum of 12.7 billion in addition to the 27.3 billion in the 2025 NEP, or the total sum of 40.1 billion in the 2025 GAA, is under the item on automatic appropriations. So, as an item under automatic appropriations, it is your position that all agencies with SAGF or those given automatic appropriations should not be increased beyond what is provided in the NEP.
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct, Your Honor.
So, why do you say this again?
Because, Your Honor, the basis for the creation of the SAGF, or the special account in the general fund, is provided under the special laws that were whose funds were increased by Congress, Your Honor.
And, Your Honor, if I may add, and if any of those were increased, it will definitely exceed the National Expenditure Program as provided by the President, and therefore, it will violate Article 6, Section 25(1), Your Honor.
Okay. So, what again do you mean by automatic appropriations not being required and annual legislative action by Congress?
Automatic appropriations, Your Honor, means the funds that were already designated by, earmarked by law for a designated purpose shall not be increased, shall not be touched by Congress.
So you're
unless-
saying if the proposal is, for example, the amount of SAGF to cover a number of agencies is about 1 billion, when you say this does not require annual legislative action by Congress, it means that amount should just be accepted as is without any increase or decrease?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, if I may add, because there is already, the law has already provided for that amount, Your Honor, and therefore, it must comply with the requirement of these special laws that provide that this amount shall be earmarked for these government agencies.
Okay. Per the computation of FPJPM, the 2025 GAA reached 6.365 trillion, higher than the total sum of 6.352 trillion in the 2025 NEP, due mainly to the increase in the SAGF, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
So still, it is the position of the FPJPM that the entire 2025 GAA should not be declared illegal and constitutionally defective, is it not?
Only with respect to the excess, Your Honor.
So why are you not of the position that due to that increase or because the total budget was increased beyond what was provided in the NEP submitted by the President, you still consider the entire GAA as constitutional?
Because, Your Honor, only the increase was made, has made the entire budget unconstitutional, Your Honor.
Okay. What again is questionable in adjusting the appropriation of the DPWH on the Special Road Fund, which is under automatic appropriations, from 16.7 billion in the 2025 NEP to 34.7 billion in the 2025 GAA?
Your Honor, the basis of the question is with respect to the special law creating the special road fund, Your Honor. That would be Republic Act 8794 as amended by Republic Act 11239. Under that law, Your Honor, it was specifically stated, particularly Section 7 thereof, that the special road fund must be sourced from the motor vehicle users charge.
Okay.
And what happened in the 2025 General Appropriations Act, Your Honor, was that from 16 billion, when it went through the bicameral conference committee, it was increased into a staggering 34 billion, Your Honor. And it is our humble submission that this violated the Constitution, Your Honor.
Okay. FPJPM is not faulting the Executive Department, particularly the Office of the President, in the increases in the SCJF allocations and the line item appropriation of the DPWH on the Special Road Fund, is it not?
Yes, sir.
So similar to the assertions in the Lagman et al. Petition, FPJPM finds the bicameral conference committee as responsible for such upward increases in the automatic appropriations for the SAGF and the DPWH on the special road fund, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor, as reflected in the special provisions of those amendments, Your Honor.
Very well then. Thank you, counsels,
Thank you.
for answering my questions. I'm done with my interpellations regarding your client. May I call on
Thank you, Your
the
Honors.
counsels for Edgar Erice and Laila De Lima, please. So any of you may answer my questions. Erice and De Lima are not questioning the entire 2026 GAA or Republic Act number 12314, but only the constitutionality of unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
So their petition is not completely similar to the petitions of Lagman et al. Do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
And not likewise similar to the petition of FPJPM, is
Yes,
it
Your
not?
Honor.
And only related but not in the same way insofar as the petition of Pimentel III and Alvarez, which seeks to declare as unconstitutional the entire 2024 GAA, not only the unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. When Erice was a previous member of the House of Representatives and De Lima was serving as a senator, they did not file a similar petition before the Supreme Court, assailing the inclusion of unprogrammed appropriations in the previous year's GAA. Is it not?
They did not, Your Honor. This is the first instance.
Okay, so in other words, since 1987 or 1989, when unprogrammed appropriations were included as an item, as a major item in the General Appropriations Act, no case was filed by any of them regarding these unprogrammed appropriations.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So, Erice and De Lima, in filing their petition, claimed that the magnitude, contingent nature, and structure of the unprogrammed appropriations expose public funds to the risk of unconstitutional release and expenditure, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are the risks they have in mind what happened to the flood control projects budget that has now become very controversial?
That is a manifestation of the defects, Your Honor, that has been inherent in the unprogrammed appropriations.
President Marcos Jr. vetoed 92.5 billion out of the 243.4 billion in unprogrammed appropriations in the 2026 GAB, which became, of course, the GAA for 2026, which is the subject of the petition of your clients. So leaving approximately about 150.9 billion in unprogrammed appropriations. Are Erice and De Lima aware if as of May 31, perhaps 2026, or if available as of June 15, 2026, the unprogrammed appropriations in the total sum of 150.9 billion has already been spent by the implementing agencies? Are your clients aware?
We have no information as
Okay.
to that, Your Honors.
And if at all, is there any report that the funding for flood control projects in the 2026 GAA ended up being pocketed by government officials or contractors, similar to allegations involving previous year's budgets?
For the 2026, Your Honor, there will be no
No reports
expense
yet.
of that nature because the remaining items under unprogrammed appropriations are too specific, Your Honor, namely the AFP modernization program, the risk management program, and for foreign assisted projects, Your Honor, which will preclude, Your Honor, a similar expense as in the previous years.
Previous years. Very well then. So at this point, may I just ask the OSG to be ready regarding documents showing that the total amounts of unprogrammed appropriations in the 2024 GAA, in the 2025 GAA, and in the 2026 GAA, so far as available, were spent already, and what is the balance, if any? So I'm referring to all unprogrammed appropriations for 2024, 2025, and 2026, whatever are the items there. If these have been spent already, and if there is any balance for 2024, 25, and 26.
Yeah, noted, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. If you know, the conditions for the release of funds to finance unprogrammed appropriations have appeared in prior years, GAAs, like in the 2024 GAA and the 2025 GAA, is it not? There are conditions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so it is just the conclusion of a recent dilemma that Section 22, which is slide 8, Article 7, was violated because unprogrammed appropriations are not supported by a BESF. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. One of the grounds is that there is no source of funding under the unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor.
But is it not that unprogrammed appropriations actually have separate sources of funding not covered by the BESF?
Separate contingent sources of funding, Your Honor.
So, which means that when the BESF is submitted as well together with the proposed budget for a particular year, it does not cover funding for unprogrammed appropriations, is it not?
Your Honors, our position is that those conditions do not amount to the sources of funding as contemplated under Article 7, Section 22, because even the extent of that was based, Your Honor, on studies by our economic managers, and those conditions, as contained in the special provisions under unprogrammed appropriations, are generic and merely events, Your Honor, that should happen.
But you agree that when you talk about the BESF, it talks about funding program appropriations and not unprogrammed appropriations.
We agree, Your Honor, that it is just one appropriations, Your Honor.
But with respect to what is being submitted to Congress, BESF refers to or will cover largely program appropriations, because unprogrammed appropriations, as you mentioned earlier, are covered by different conditions, is it not?
That would be the ideal, Your Honor.
Okay. Is this allowing the inclusion of unprogrammed appropriations, which is the main focus of your petition, which has been included in the NEP for many years already, and which then serves as the basis of the GAB, wherein the GAB is completely the act of Congress, is doing that surrendering the constitutional prerogative given to Congress, particularly its power of the purse?
It will not be surrendering the power of the purse, Your Honor. In fact, it will strengthen Congress's exercise of the power of the purse, because by removing the unprogrammed appropriations, it will preclude delegation of the authority to appropriate to the executive department, Your Honor. And in terms of tradition or longevity of the use of unprogrammed appropriations, we have done that to the pork barrel, Your Honor. So it will not preclude the Honorable Court from considering to declare as unconstitutional as well the unprogrammed appropriations.
But do you agree that, of course, when it comes to the power of the purse, it covers not only programmed appropriations, but even unprogrammed appropriations?
If we may, Your Honor, appropriations, as this court has defined in the past, is the designation of determinate and determinable amounts. And that characteristic, Your Honor, is not present under unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor.
Okay.
And just to add on that, Your Honor, it also supports the idea or the constitutional provision on the germane, such that such appropriation has to be particular, unambiguous, and appropriate, Your Honor. Hence, it is our submission that it is not surrendering, but strengthening the power of the purse lodged in the Congress, Your Honor.
But when I say power of the purse, it means that the submission of the executive department through the NEP can be the subject of scrutiny of Congress, and it can exercise its power of the purse by determining which amount should be appropriated without going beyond what is provided in the NEP, is it not?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So, with respect to program appropriations, do you consider, because in your petition, you mentioned that Congress, even if a program appropriations is allowed, must still comply with the non-delegation doctrine, which requires that any delegation of discretion be accompanied by sufficient standards to guide the implementing authority. So we're talking about sufficient standards. So my question is, with respect to program appropriations, do you consider the need for standards to be fixed as well by Congress to meet the requisites of proper delegation? Take note, because in non-program appropriations, before you answer, there are conditions that you put that Congress put there before the release of any amount under program appropriations. I'm asking is, do you still need the same kind of standard for purposes of program appropriations?
It is no longer necessary, Your Honor, because the appropriation itself is the authority given by Congress to spend that certain amount of money and bring that out of the Treasury, Your Honors.
Okay. Is it not that unprogrammed appropriations are appropriations intended for the operations of the government for a particular fiscal year?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. If unprogrammed appropriations are completely disallowed, all budgetary proposals will be considered only as program appropriations and automatic appropriations, will it not? Because you're taking out program appropriations.
That is what we maintain, Your Honor,
Okay.
and if that is so important, it should be under programmed appropriations.
Even automatic appropriations, is that what you're saying?
Not
So we
anymore,
still-
Your Honor, because we are talking about just the budget submitted by the President for the operations of the government, and the automatic appropriations have already been allocated amounts for by law as well, Your Honor.
Okay. So if we only have program appropriations and automatic appropriations, then the funding for these appropriations will all be based on the BESF, is it not?
As contemplated by the Constitution, yes, Your Honor.
Will this not limit the capability of the government to spend, since we do not expect that all revenue collections will be sufficient to cover all program and automatic appropriations?
No, Your Honor. As mentioned during the last hearings, Your Honor, there is also a supplemental budget or special appropriations, such that if there is a need, the Congress, Your Honor, may meet and convene and enact a special appropriations for particular purposes, Your Honor.
But you know already the process insofar as supplemental appropriations or special appropriations are concerned, that it goes through the same legislative mill, passing through the House and then going to the Senate, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you very much, counsels. I'm done with my interpellations regarding your client.
Thank
May
you
I-
very much, Your
Your
Honors.
Honor.
May I just call on the Honorable Senator Drilon to the podium. Former Senate President Frank Drilon.
Good morning, Your Honor. Yes.
Magandang umaga po. On the BICAM Conference Committee, do you find any provision in the Constitution that authorizes its creation by Congress or the Legislative Department?
None, Your Honor, but it is born out of necessity because the versions of both houses would not usually would we need to reconcile the respective proposals of the two chambers, and therefore the need for a bicameral conference committee to iron out these differences.
So how does Congress create this BICAM then? By resolution, by legislation, or by mere agreement?
To my recollection, I cannot answer that question as a matter of fact as to how Congress came about with the bicameral conference committee. Nung pagdating ko po sa Senado, may BICAM na, and that was in 1995. How it was created, I do not know.
Okay. So, who determines the members that will compose the BICAM Conference Committee? If you know.
The respective chambers would designate the members of the BICAM And usually the chairman is the chairman of the budget committee of both houses.
Okay. You claim that ang program appropriations function as a special appropriation contained in the GAA. Is that right?
I'm sorry,
According
sir?
to you, ang program appropriations function as a special appropriation contained in the GAA. That is your statement. Do you recall?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct, Your Honor, that I recall that statement.
Okay. So are you saying that instead of resorting to what is provided in section 25.4, that's slide 6, Article 6 of the Constitution, wherein a separate special appropriations bill should be filed to supplement the GAA, identifying specifically the available funding source as certified by the National Treasurer, that Congress can just include under an program appropriations, special appropriations?
The unauthorized appropriations are included in the national expenditure program submitted by the executive to Congress. And Congress adopts it as part of the General Appropriations Bill and subsequently part of the General Appropriations Act. Whether or not that the inclusion or the funding of those unprogrammed appropriations are contingent upon certain conditions. If I may submit to your honors, the reason why there is so much difficulty is that we forget the fact that Congress has plenary powers over the budget. We must remember, sir, if I may say, that we are in a Republican state. In a Republican state, all power emanates from the people. And the Constitution is a limitation on the power of the state, on the power of government. And therefore, the limitations of the power of government must be contained in the Constitution.
Okay.
Now, the Constitution does not provide for the unprogrammed appropriation. And therefore, this is part of the power of the state to appropriate. And it is our respectful submission, Your Honor, that this is a plenary power of Congress and that cannot be restricted, but it doesn't mean that the use of such power cannot be corrected. And that is why there is the power of this honorable court to correct abuses of discretion on the part of the branches of government.
Okay. When you talk about unprogrammed appropriations, which forms part of the NEP submitted by the President, usually there is no need for a certification from the National Treasurer about the availability of funds to cover those unprogrammed appropriations. Is it not?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
It
And
is
then
only
as
when they are
compared-
released that certification is required.
Okay. And compared to a special appropriation pursuant to Section 25.4, you need a certification from the National Treasurer for the availability on the availability of funds for purposes of a law to provide for that special appropriation. Is it not?
You are correct, Your Honor,
Okay.
but the assumption, I assume, is that the inclusion of the unauthorized unprogrammed appropriation with the corresponding sources of revenue, which is excess funds or excess collection and or loans, is the one that would take the place, in effect, of the special authorization or granted or required of special appropriation.
Okay. In other words, you prefer that ang program appropriations be in the NEP rather than to come up with the special appropriations that would supplement the national budget.
I have no preference, Your Honor.
Okay.
The fact is that it is there, and we did not create that.
Okay. For many years, unprogrammed appropriations have been included in GAAs since 1989, and you claim that its legitimacy arose only, the questions, on its legitimacy arose only after a marked increase in the said appropriations as compared to the NEPs. So are you saying that if the unprogrammed appropriations were not increased, there should have been no issue regarding the inclusion of these unprogrammed appropriations in the GAAs?
In my submission, Your Honor, in my opinion, there is no question of the inclusion of unprogrammed appropriation. It is in the process of implementing
Okay.
the unprogrammed appropriation where questions legitimately arise.
Okay. If you knew, because of reports already regarding the misuse of these unprogrammed appropriations for flood control projects, if you knew that the amounts allocated for unprogrammed appropriations will just be pocketed, will you still advocate for these appropriations to be included in our GAAs?
I am not advocating for anything. What I'm just saying is the power to include unprogrammed appropriation is a power of Congress.
Okay. So, what safeguards, if any, should be put in place to prevent the misuse of funds placed under unprogrammed appropriations?
We have, number one, the check on the use on the utilization of the unprogrammed appropriation is the requirement that there should be an excess in revenue. The abuse committed by the executive branch is that instead of considering the whole revenue picture, they picked up on individual sources of revenue and on that basis authorized the release of unprogrammed revenue, which was the source of the corruption. Having said that, Your Honor, it is not because we have enough safeguards or mechanisms in our Constitution which should address these abuses. You have the COA, and precisely we are now witnessing the impeachment of the Vice President because it is a mechanism for accountability.
Okay.
And therefore that is embedded in our Constitution, the mechanisms of accountability. Unfortunately, over the past decades, we have seen how the culture of impunity has prevailed, and therefore you have abuses of authority because we have never enforced the law correctly.
Okay. It is your position that program appropriations and non-program appropriations must be separate in the GAAs. Do you confirm that? As a sound fiscal management measure. You mentioned that.
I'm sorry, sir, if you can rephrase.
You said previously that program appropriations and unprogrammed appropriations must be separate in the GAAs as a sound fiscal management measure. Do you confirm that?
I do not. I'm sorry, Your Honor. I do not recall having made that statement.
Anyway, that's part of my notes. But
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Senate President.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. May I call on Secretary Butchabat? In Ilonggo, that's Salamat Gid pala.
Morning, Justice.
Good morning. According to you, over the past 4 decades, the country registered budget surpluses only during a brief 4-year period, from 1994 to 1997, during the administration of President Ramos, and revenue collections exceeded targets only in 6 fiscal years, 1994 to 1997, 2001, and 2004. So that as a general rule, the fiscal conditions necessary to validly trigger and program appropriations have not existed, according to you. Is this not right?
In general, Your Honor.
Okay. So are you saying then that all the unprogrammed appropriations for the years that there were surpluses or where there were excess in revenue collections are valid?
Well, only because for some of those years, until the Ochoa case, Berica Ochoa case came out, I think it's the PDAF, yeah, that's right, the Berica versus Ochoa case came up when it decided that the streams of revenue should be considered in their totality.
Okay.
Until that point, non-excess, non-tax revenues were the mechanism used to fund unprogrammed appropriations. But then, it was pointed out that that mechanism is not deficit neutral.
Okay. I think Belica is about the pork barrel. And Araulio versus Aquino is
It's
about the
PDAF.
yes. Are you saying then that when you were a member of the House of Representatives as a legislator, did you raise this issue about unprogrammed appropriations being rendered inoperative since there is no surplus or excess in revenue collections to begin with?
Well, in fact, to be perfectly honest, we were never really concerned about it because it never came up in
Okay.
the discussions of Congress, because really the focus was on program appropriations, because
Okay.
under the Constitution, the program of appropriations is funded by the BSF, and it contains the NEP, or the President's budget. So that was really the focus of discussion, and now we realize that unprogrammed appropriations don't really figure in the debates, because what they at most do is authorize general expenditures. But insofar as identifying sources of financing, these are dependent on fiscal events happening in the future, post-enactment,
Okay.
and during budget execution, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so it is correct to say then that when you were budget secretary or head of the Department of Budget and Management, you did not ask President Aquino then not to submit a NEP that contained unprogrammed appropriations? Because your
Not
focus
during
was
budget
different.
submission, Your Honor.
Yes, okay. So as former DBM secretary during the Aquino administration, way to President Aquino then that ang program of appropriations in the national budget submitted during his term are fiscally or financially unsound?
No, Your Honor, because
Okay.
in fact, I think I utilized the mechanism
Okay.
insofar as drawing from surplus dividends coming from the GOCC's dens. But these were not big amounts, Your Honor.
Okay. Was there any occasion during the administration of President Aquino that he vetoed any provision in the budget bill presented to him for his signature?
I do not recall,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Would you agree that projects, activities, or programs or PAPs under unprogrammed appropriations require closer monitoring or scrutiny as compared to the PAPs under program appropriations?
Well, compared to the program appropriations, which have identified sources of financing, and which contains the National Expenditure Program, which is really the President's budget, they have been given more scrutiny, because unprogrammed appropriations, while they contain authorized general expenditures approved by Congress, they never really had identified sources of financing, and were dependent on fiscal events that really hardly happened as a general fiscal occurrence, Your Honor. So therefore, it was the program appropriations that was really the focus of attention in the budget process.
Okay. So in order to come up with what you refer to as a comprehensive framework for managing the nation's finances, do you have any institutional safeguards in mind to protect public funds from being stolen or pocketed by unscrupulous public officials, individuals, or contractors?
Well, what has been unprecedented insofar as the abuse of or the diversion of PAPs from, let's say, program appropriations has been just this past 3 years, Your Honors. In 2023, when something like 397 billion were taken from program appropriations. In 2024, when the amount of about 564 billion were all taken from the program appropriations and diverted somewhere. And finally, in 2025, when 497 billion from program appropriations were also reprogrammed.
Okay.
So those are really unprecedented in my experience insofar as budgeting is concerned. And I think they had little to do with unprogrammed appropriations, but more to do with pooling public funds over which legislators had full control and diversion. And if ever, unprogrammed appropriations was mentioned, I think it was more to cover up for that pool of funds over which they had full discretion, and maybe to create an assurance which has no basis for telling the public that we are taking these funds and putting them in unprogrammed appropriations because in the future we may be able to find money to finance them. And perhaps that may have happened, and that may have been the reason why in the 2024 GAA, that was amended and a general provision 1D was included, which resulted in the extraction of cash from PhilHealth and PDIC. And I think that is the only consequence I saw in the adoption of the unprogrammed appropriations during that time, Your
Okay.
Honor.
Thank you very much, Secretary. I'm done with my interpellation. Salamat po.
Salamat din po.
Diyos mamahis. Can I call on Congressman Joey Salceda, please?
Diyos maray na hapon po.
Magandang araw po. Nembag na bigat yo po. In your presentation, it is your position that the government is spending too little and the effect thereof are in a three-bladed contractionary policy, which are spending is lower than last year, we are shrinking money supply, and the external environment is cloudy. Is it not?
Correct.
Okay. Are you saying that government spending based on program appropriations are not enough, that we need unprogrammed appropriations?
You can see that in terms of its impacts or its consequences in terms of poverty, unemployment, in terms of economic growth. So all these are reflect what the government puts into the economy, and therefore it can be said that government expenditures are suboptimal in order that we can achieve the ambition of the ordinary Filipino in terms of for their family or for their children.
Okay, so you're saying, in essence, program appropriations are not enough. We should have unprogrammed appropriations.
If possible, optimally, sir,
Okay.
they should have been put there. Except that there are conditionalities.
Okay.
When you say conditionalities, you're not sure whether, one, the revenues will come in, two, that the FAPs or the foreign assisted
Okay.
loans will come in.
Okay. Also, and according to you, the long use by the executive and legislative branches of unprogrammed appropriations should result in these appropriations being decreed as lawful or constitutional. Am I right? That's what you said in your presentation.
Yes.
Okay. So you maintain this view then, even if there are reports of abuse, misuse, or misappropriation of funds allocated for unprogrammed appropriations? Do you still maintain that view?
Sir, the abuse is not a function of the fact that malaki po yung unprogrammed funds, unprogrammed appropriations. I think there are enough railguards in the Constitution itself, in a lot of laws, in terms of COA, in terms of, there's a slew, a universe that will provide the controls, and therefore the abuse of unprogrammed funds, the abuse is not a function because there are unprogrammed funds in the budget.
Okay. As far as you are concerned, striking down unprogrammed appropriations will neither breed nor bust ghost projects, and that both programmed and ang program appropriations are vulnerable to implementation abuses. So are you saying that we cannot escape abuses, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds no matter how much we try?
I think, sir, the Constitution, if you read a slew of it, and I think I am very tempted to say about Hannah Arendt, about the banality of evil. In other words,
Just reply to the question.
okay, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you still would want to see unprogrammed appropriations and just attend to any abuse, misuse, or misappropriation separately?
Because the misuse is not because there is unprogrammed funds.
Okay. Okay. Now, you mentioned as well in your presentation that striking down unprogrammed appropriations retroactively punishes legitimate contractors. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Saying? So, but will this not also prospectively avoid illegitimate contractors?
But I think Congress, I think, could put in new guardrails so that future misuse, with or without, whether on the unprogrammed funds or the program funds, then I think the rules in order to prevent the misuse apply to both.
Okay. According to you, without unprogrammed appropriations, government is left with no crisis instrument and there is no replacement insofar as unprogrammed appropriations is concerned. Do you confirm that?
Yes, sir.
So are you saying that we are stuck with unprogrammed appropriations no matter how we try to get rid of it?
Well, we're not in the best of times. We're trying as much as possible to grow the economy, to put in the general economic strategy in order to grow our revenues and therefore provide, I think, sufficient funds for necessary to reduce poverty, increase growth, and of course, for development. So, ang importante po talaga dyan na that the instrumentalities of government, and there are enough rules. If you read, I mean, I don't know if you put all the rules and guidelines, the IRRs, I think there are enough guardrails, but I think still. So, I don't think that ang sinasabi ko po, sir, na halos lahat ng crisis, let me start the recent crisis, the pandemic crisis. The pandemic crisis, 3 years, 2.4 trillion. There was no revenues of 2.4 trillion. So it was the central bank that financed the government. And therefore now we have to use unprogrammed funds in order to pay for it. And then again, we had this crisis, the recent
Okay.
crisis with respect to fuel. So again, we cannot rely on the organic, kulang po.
Okay. My last question, you conclude in your presentation that an outright invalidation of unprogrammed appropriations will shift to the court, a burden the Constitution assigns to Congress. You remember?
Yes, sir.
Oh, why do you say that? Briefly, please.
Because that is the entire structure of a Republican state. It has 3 branches, and our Constitution assigns full plenary powers on fiscal matters to Congress.
Okay. Diyos Mabalos, Congressman. Salamat po. Secretary Ben Jokno, please.
Morning, Your Honor.
Magandang umaga po. Based on your submission, you claim to have prepared 13 of the 39 POS-EDs One Revolution national budgets, which is one-third so far of all GAAs after 1987, is it not?
Correct, Your Honor.
Okay. So in all these 13 national budgets, and program appropriations were included in every NEP, the general appropriations bills and the corresponding GAAs. Am I not correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
And you did not recognize anything wrong in including unprogrammed appropriations in all the national budgets that you prepared?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. So for all the 13 national budgets that you prepared, what were the safeguards, if any, that you put in place to prevent any abuse or misappropriation of the funds allocated under unprogrammed appropriations?
In fact, I think the triggers are fairly constant. Number one, excess taxes. Number two, excess non-tax revenues. And third will be proceeds from foreign assisted projects. The fourth one was entered in 2024, and you're all familiar with that.
Okay. So according to you, from 2005 to 2026, the unprogrammed appropriations approved by Congress exceeded the unprogrammed appropriations in the NEPs only 5 times. Do you find this odd, unusual, or alarming?
No, that should be the case, that it should not exceed what is proposed by the President. And what is unusual is that during the last 3 years, 2023, 2024, and 2025, the excess was unusually large.
Okay. So by the way, if you recall, in all the 13 national budgets that you prepared, how many in unprogrammed appropriations were decreased or reduced from the NEP to the DAAs?
I don't recall, but there were cases where
It was reduced.
request of the President was reduced by Congress.
So how do you find any reduction? Because based on the data that I have, there were 13 times that in 36 years that the amounts for unprogrammed appropriations were decreased or reduced.
Maybe there are some items there that Congress find excessive, so it is within the right to reduce.
So compared to an increase, it's better to decrease? Is that what you're saying?
No, an increase is not allowed, Your Honor, under the Constitution.
Okay. You described that in the last 3 years, the excesses or increases in the unprogrammed appropriations legislated or considered by Congress to be monumental, is it not?
That's correct, Your
So
Honor.
this refers to the GAAs for 2023, 2024, and 2025, which are national budgets under President Marcos Jr., is it not?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So however, would you agree that prior to these GAAs, there was also an increase of about 100 million in the 2022 GAA in unprogrammed appropriations? So is this not correct?
That's correct. I'm
in other
surprised, Your Honor, but
2022.
I was trying to look for an explanation for that, and maybe it's because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
So in other words, the monumental excesses or increases started in 2022 GAA, which was a national budget of the previous administration, is it not?
Let me check my notes, Your Honor. Yeah, I think there's a year under GMA, a year under President Duterte, and 3 years under President Trump.
During the time of GMA, 3 times it was increased ang program appropriations in 2004, 2008, and 2010. The highest being in the amount of 47 billion. In one time under based on my record, one time during the administration of PRRD, that's in 2022, 100 billion.
That's I would think it's because of the COVID, Mr.
Okay.
Because we have a lot of foreign assisted projects during that time.
Okay.
To buy the vaccines and the ayudas, etc. And that's allowed under the unprogrammed appropriations.
Very good. Again, for you, unprogrammed appropriations are standby appropriations, is it not?
That's correct. It's
Okay.
not a standby fund. It's no money shall be paid out of the treasury except
When it comes to the preparation of the national budget, which to you is the most consequential piece of legislation passed by the legislature? Is this correct?
That's correct. In fact, Your Honor, it is the only bill I know that cannot be prepared by the House or the Senate without waiting for the President's submission of the BSF.
Okay.
It should be based on the BSF.
You're referring to the unprogrammed appropriation should also be based on the BESF?
No, Your Honor, the budget contains three things.
Yeah.
Program, automatically appropriated funds,
Okay.
and the unprogrammed.
Okay. So BESF, as we have been discussing earlier, pertains largely to program appropriations.
No, it's the totality.
Yes.
BSF contains 3 years of numbers. The current year, the immediate past, and the ensuing year.
Okay.
And then from there, we prepare what's called the NEP. We prepare the NEP. This is the counterpart of the GAB. Okay,
Yes.
we are being nice to the House because it will take them a long time to prepare the GAB. So we prepare the NEP,
Okay.
and they base the GAB on the NEP.
Okay. What again is your objection or concern regarding the increase in the earmark funds for the road users fund?
Your Honor, this is one of those that is automatically appropriated, like debt service, the national tax allocation. It used to be IRA. This is prepared by the Department of Public Works and Highways. They look at how much money is available. They have a formula of how much they need because it's formula-based, number of kilometers and so forth and so on. And they also assess their own capability in terms of implementing the projects. So on that basis, it is prepared by the executive, and then it's discussed in the cabinet. Whatever number we get from DPWH, the Department of Budget and Management would then input that. It will be approved by the cabinet, approved by the president. And therefore, I think Congress does not have the information necessary to increase that. And also, they are barred from increasing the budget in the first place.
May I just, sorry to cut you short on that one, because my last question is that objection of yours aligned to the petition of FPJPM?
Yes, Your Honor. I think whatever is submitted by the President should not be increased, especially with respect to the automatically appropriated funds.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm done with my interpellation. Maraming salamat. Mr. Chief Justice, I know it's nearing 12 noon, but will I be allowed to finish the last person that I will interpellate, who is the Solicitor General? Okay.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. Soljan Berberabe. During the fourth SONA, State of the Nation Address of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. on July 26, 2025, one of his most important disclosures was about the flood control projects that he referred to as, and I quote, palpak at gumuho, at yung iba guni-guni lang, end of quote. Likewise, he gave a fair warning when he said that, and I quote, kaya sa mga nakikipagsabwatan upang kunin ang pondo ng bayan at nakawin ang kinabukasan ng ating mga mamamayan, mahiya naman kayo sa inyong kapwa Pilipino, end of quote. He then continued in saying that, and I quote, mahiya naman kayo sa mga kababayan nating naanod o nalubog sa mga pagbaha, end of quote. And then he stressed further that, and I quote, mahiya naman kayo lalo sa mga anak natin na magmamana sa mga utang na ginawa ninyo, na binulsa nyo lang ang pera, end of quote. May I just ask, but before you proceed that, may I just, please for your, slide number 14, using of course, the letters previously presented. This now, to me, should refer to, hindi yan, yung isa. Yan. Slide number 14, to 15, yan. Ayan po. You say, can you read it for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Uwahi, unprogrammed appropriations, huwag ibulsa.
So my question is, may I just ask if you agree that funds for unprogrammed appropriations that are pocketed or stolen gives unprogrammed appropriations a bad name?
A very bad name, Your Honor.
Okay. So President Marcos Jr. in the same SONA actually provided a glimpse of budget reforms that he wants to put in place to address the abuse, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds when he said that, and I quote, in the same SONA, therefore, for the 2026 national budget, I will return any proposed general appropriations bill that is not fully aligned with the national expenditure program. And further, I am willing to do this even if we end up with a reenacted budget. Hindi ko aprubahan ang kahit anong budget na hindi alinsunod sa plano ng gobyerno para sa sambayanang Pilipino, end of quote. May I just ask then, if you know, if President Marcos Jr. starting with the 2026 GAA actually made good his promise about initiating certain reforms in the budget process?
I believe so, Your Honor.
And particularly with respect to unprogrammed appropriations, what happened insofar as the current budget is concerned?
In regard to the, I think it was in the 2026 GAA that the President vetoed from originally eight purposes. There was a significant reduction, Your Honor, of the unprogrammed appropriations purposes.
Okay. Do you agree that if there are budget reforms that will be implemented, then this should cover not only program appropriations, but also for program appropriations and automatic appropriations?
Yes,
Any
Your-
budget reform should
Yes.
cover all items. Do
Yes,
you agree?
Your Honor.
Okay. When the Constitution mentions about appropriations laws that must be enacted for the operation of the government for a fiscal year, there is no specific mention about dividing these appropriations in program, unprogrammed, or automatic appropriations. Do you agree?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is it correct to say that both the executive department, the latter through the NEP, being submitted by the President, and the legislative department, the latter through the General Appropriations Bill, were the ones which determined the items in all GAAs? Is this not right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the Judicial Department encroaching then on the constitutional prerogatives of the Executive Department if the Court declares unprogrammed appropriations as unconstitutional so that this could not be included in the NEP?
It is the humble submission, Your Honor, that it is not within the power of the judiciary to interfere in the power of the purse, with the exception of the power of the court under its expanded power to review, which is also very limited. And in the previous oral arguments that we had given the definition of what grave abuse of discretion is, we have also discussed what is the burden of proof that is required of the petitioners, which we submit that they have not satisfied the burden. And in fact, if I may say, most of the evidence and documents that have been provided in this case have been voluntarily provided by the respondents.
Okay. The submission of the NEP is a constitutional duty of the President, is it not?
The submission of the budget,
The budget, which is the NEP,
which is the NEP, Your
the
Honor.
President's budget. Yes, go ahead.
The requirement for the President refers to the submission of the BESF. And that is why the respondent's position is that the budget of expenditures and sources of financing would include the programmed appropriations and the automatic appropriations, while the unprogrammed appropriations are part of the NEP, which is for the purpose of complete report to the Congress of what will be the total appropriations for the year, Your Honor.
Okay. Are we also in the judicial department encroaching on the constitutional powers of the legislative department if we declare unprogrammed appropriations as unconstitutional, so that this could not be included anymore in the general appropriations bill being prepared by the House of Representatives and which the Senate concurs or modifies through the committee reports coming from its Finance Committee?
It is our humble submission, Your Honor, yes, subject again just to the exception on the power of expanded review, which our position is that it does not amount to a grave abuse of discretion. There is no constitutional standard that is violated by the respondents in this case, Your Honor.
Okay. Can the funding for programmed appropriations be transferred to unprogrammed appropriations? If you know.
If it is the source of funding, Your Honor, I believe, no, I don't believe, but I know that the answer is no, because there are different sources of funding for the programmed appropriations, and they are targeted and they are committed by the executive, while the sources of financing for the unprogrammed appropriations are based on the special triggers identified in the GAA, Your Honor.
Okay. So likewise, can the funding for automatic appropriations be used to fund unprogrammed appropriations?
Technically, Your Honor, no, because, and I qualify technically because I always am reminded by our discussion with the DBM because of the cash management policy of the DBM that sometimes there is cash that is available and there is no longer a clear delineation of this is the cash that is coming from A and this is the cash that's coming from B. So, but technically, if it is just possible for the demarcation that this cash is coming from the identified sources under the BESF for the programmed, then the answer is yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Is merging programmed appropriations and unprogrammed appropriations into one category, like singly programmed appropriations, financially sound?
I think, Your Honor, that it is not, because the unprogrammed appropriations entirely is based on something that the executive is not prepared to commit. And it is actually saying that it is not targeting, and the funding for the unprogrammed appropriations will be dependent on the excess of anyone in the non-tax revenue based on the latest GAA provision, Your Honor, because every year the triggers might also vary, Your Honor.
Okay. Year to year, although sometimes there are constant special provisions for unprogrammed appropriations. Is that not correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Generally, what former Secretary, Budget Secretary Jokno mentioned, generally they are the special triggers, Your Honor.
Okay. When it comes to unprogrammed appropriations, Congress has done at least three options. One, retain the amount in the NEP. Second, reduce the amount in the NEP. And third is increase the amount in the NEP. Of the three, which is more in line with what is provided in the Constitution regarding appropriation laws?
It is our position, Your Honor, that the unprogrammed appropriations are not part of what is required under the Constitution, and therefore the unprogrammed appropriations belong to the power of the purse, and therefore there is no violation or no standard that is being breached by Congress in the three possible actions for the unprogrammed appropriations, Your Honor.
So you're saying that Congress can decide to do whatever pleases them based on their own judgment regarding the amounts in unprogrammed appropriations?
I think, Your Honor, that the triggers will be the realistic parameters whereby Congress can determine what is the most appropriate action. So it is our humble submission, and we all expect that each branch of the government would not be arbitrary, would not be whimsical in their actions. So even if those three actions are possible courses of action by the Congress, I think the realistic economic factors, the realistic condition presented by the executive to the Congress during the deliberation process would also be a guide for Congress to make a final determination, Your Honor.
Following the view of Secretary Jokno that the government knows best insofar as budget preparations are concerned, would you agree that among the three options, so long as Congress decides not to increase the amounts in the unprogrammed appropriations, that it would be the ideal one and more consistent with our constitutional provisions?
Your Honor, in my discussions with the House of Representatives, Your Honor, we were thinking of other alternative states of fact, Your Honor, that sometimes the executive perhaps would include purposes or items that are not in sync with what the Congress thinks are appropriate to be included in the budget, Your Honor. So if I may ask the kind indulgence of the court to also think of other alternative scenarios where, for example, there is a vindictive president that will limit certain purposes to his or her allies, or to purposes that are only viewed as important by his allies, and the Congress, being the representatives of the people, would be in a better position to know which are the purposes that they hope to find in the budget, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you aware on how fund releases or payments are made for programs, activities, or projects that are funded by public funds?
Your Honor, I have a general view, Your Honor, but the DBM would be in a better position to clarify the details, Your Honor.
Okay. If you know, is progress billing still the basis in releasing funds or payments?
Your Honor, may I confer quickly? Your Honor, the DBM representative confirms that yes, in infrastructure projects, it is still
Progress billings.
implemented.
Is it not?
Yes.
Okay. In these progress billings, if you know, are there receipts being attached as proof that there were really expenses for the progress in the completion of any PAP, like a flood control project?
The DBM secretary confirms yes, Your
So
Honor.
if you say that as of today, a particular flood control project is 60% complete, there will be receipts attached to prove that it is indeed 60% complete?
That should be the case, Your Honor.
So do you agree that strictly requiring that these progress billings be closely monitored, that it will help lessen, if not eliminate, the abuse, misuse, or misappropriation of public funds for, among others, some program appropriations?
Yes, Your Honor, that is correct. In fact, the procurement laws, which we all know are very strict, and each agency is really doing its job to comply. I think our country has many laws, many regulations, many issuances from the departments, and if each person can just be honest and good public servants, I think, Your Honor, there will really be no problem.
Okay, that's why I guess you have to go back to the DBM as well as to the DPWH regarding these receipts that are supposed to be attached to any progress billing. I hope you're correct in saying that they actually attach it, because if these are really attached, then it's easy to know whether or not these are ghost projects? Because receipts you can actually trace, is it not?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then perhaps you can look into that more closely, Madam Solicitor General.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Just my final query. May I know if any of the petitions pending now is asking to criminally punish those who prepared the NEP, who deliberated and voted on the GAB, and who signed the GAA and later implemented the provisions on the program appropriations?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chief Justice, I'm done with my interpellations. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you,
Thank you
Your
as well.
Thank you, Justice Raul Villanueva. Considering it's past 12 o'clock in the court's clock, we will suspend the session and resume at 1:30 for lunch break. Thank you.
All right. Please remain standing while the Chief Justice, the Senior Associate